thank you to Institute of Inspiring Innovation team for having me here today. And I would also like to thank all of you who are present here today for taking your time to join me in this session. My endeavor in this session, a little extra mindset, is to give you useful insights to get extraordinary results in your projects. Right. So what is it that we're going to talk about today? When we look at a little extra mindset for project management, there are a few things that I would like to actually give you a context of before we get into those three mindsets that I'm looking at in today's session. In fact, very recently, I was going through a PMI Pulse of the Profession 2021 report, and I came across a term, Gymnastic Enterprise. Have you heard of that term? If you have, please do write in the chat box, yes. Okay, so what is a gymnastic enterprise? Gymnastic enterprise, or the PMI Pulse of the Profession report, really talks about emergence of this kind of an organization, which is very flexible and which is very I would say the word here is, in post-pandemic world, it is attuned to how to change very frequently or adjust to the changes very frequently. I'll talk about that a little more. Next, what we're going to look at is what is a little extra mindset. And finally, we're going to look at my three little extras in project management that could give you edge at work. Now, before I get started, I just want to take a few moments to introduce myself. My name is Namita. I am, I've been in the industry for over 25 years. Started my career as a trainer, got into corporates, did a lot of projects. And then since 2002, 2001, I've been training and consulting on project management and leadership. I have trained over 5,000 professionals in my journey and across a lot of various domains, including technology, consulting, pharma companies, and so on. A little more in terms of my certifications. As you can see, I have done a lot of international certifications that are aligned to my work. And I am currently empaneled as a coach with SABCONS and Institute of Inspiring Innovation. Okay. So one thing that I want to mention here is you don't have to be a project management professional to know or to look at what we are discussing in today's session. While I have aligned myself to the project management role, responsibilities, and the kind of work we do. But whatever we are going to discuss today is applicable to any kind of work you do. In fact, even in your personal life, these three little extras can be used very, very efficiently. Okay, so let's get started. What is a gymnastic enterprise? A gymnastic enterprise, as per PMI Pulse of Profession, is an organization that has learned to flex and pivot. What it means is, as I was mentioning earlier, that it is an organization that has learned to, it's a very agile organization. It can change whenever, wherever, very easily. They have learned that art of pivoting and flexing, agility. The second thing that is very core of a gymnastic enterprise is there's a lot of emphasis on a human element. What it basically means is it's not only talking about major processes all the time. There is a lot of aspect on empowering people, a lot of aspect on enabling people to manage change, to become change agents at their own level, and not necessarily everything has to be a top-down approach. And the third thing, which is core of gymnastic enterprise, is the people in gymnastic enterprises have elevated power skills. Power skills are generally what we call people skills. Now, how is it different from general people skills is in gymnastic enterprises versus a traditional enterprise? there is a lot more stress or emphasis on collaborative leadership. There is a lot of emphasis on human element of it, right? Let's see some of these power skills. First is the collaborative approach. Now, before I actually go forward, I just wanted to read out a couple of statistics here with respect to the gymnastic enterprises. What it says is the report, PMI Pulse of Profession report says is gymnastic enterprises are 48% more agile than traditional organizations. In terms of the human element, they empower their people, resulting in increased productivity, which is 71% versus 53% in the traditional organizations, right? And all of this is achieved through the elevated power skills. So what are these power skills? Power skills are, like I was mentioning earlier, collaborative leadership. Collaborative leadership is basically where we say that instead of direction and control to the team, you work with them. The term used is influence and facilitation versus direction and control. What it is also about is mutual empowerment versus the power struggle. So the leadership is working with the teams rather than giving them direction. Power skills is also about empathy for customers and colleagues. I put a star there because I think beyond customers and colleagues, it is also something that is applicable to our partners and our vendors. And third, very important power skill is the innovative thinking. And finally, ability to build trusting relationships. So my three little extras today are aligned to these power skills that are making gymnastic enterprises so successful in post-pandemic era. Okay, so what is a little extra mindset? A little extra mindset, in my view, in my understanding, and before I give you that understanding, let me tell you, this is influenced by Naveen Lacour's book, A Little Extra, where he's talking about what is ordinary and what is that little extra that makes ordinary extraordinary. So I've taken that idea and I have looked at some of the practices in project management that would help us with that little extra, with that tiny little thing that we do different from others, will give us edge over others, will make us better leaders, will make us successful project managers, or even more successful project managers. So what is a little extra mindset? Little extra mindset is what makes ordinary extraordinary. That one small thing which is nothing but the X factor. In my personal view, the X factor starts with our attitude and our willingness to do that little extra, go that little extra mile to make ordinary extraordinary. And of course, in our project context, it is going beyond the role of project manager and building connect with the people. At this point, if you have any questions, please feel free to write in the chat box. So what are these three little extras? My first little extra is coming from, in fact, all of these little extras are coming in from my experience working with project managers, working with senior managers in organizations during my trainings and consulting assignments. So let me give you a small example. This is something that I like to share in a lot of my workshops also, is let's say I ask you, give me a good marker. What would you give? Probably look for a good brand that you can give me. You will also think, okay, she is a trainer. Maybe I should give her a marker that lasts longer, right? So what we are doing here is we are thinking about what is it that would work for her. We are listing down assumptions, which is good. In a project scenario, having a list of assumptions is definitely good. So listing assumptions is ordinary, but here, what is it that could make this ordinary little extraordinary with that small little thing is asking smart questions to validate assumptions. So here, a good question to ask me would be, what is a good marker for you? What is it that you would be using this marker for? Instead of making an assumption that she's a trainer and she would be using it for her trainings, maybe it is for some other purpose, right? So when we are validating our assumptions, what we are doing is we are having a clearer picture with our stakeholders, and as a result, the outcome of your project is more aligned to what the customer is looking for or what your stakeholder is looking for, versus it is what that you are looking to give to the client. Let me share one more small example here. So about few weeks back, I wanted to get logo done for my company. It's not a company as is, so I go in with my own name saying Namita Wadhwa. Now, when I was talking to the designer knew what area of work I was in. She could easily assume that she is a coach. She is looking at, this is the kind of industry. And if I kind of go outside and see what coaches are doing nowadays, they would probably say, okay, your logo should ideally be a signature, like what you would see business coach Rajiv Talreja doing, or what you would see Ankur Wariku's. That is what their logo is, their signature. This is something that she could have easily assumed. Instead, what she did is, while she understood what kind of work I do, she also made a certain assumptions. She came and asked me, who is it that you would be serving? Who are your clients? What kind of image do you want to portray? And so on and so forth. So once she started asking me questions, what happened is I got clarity and she got clarity on what is it that I want out of that small project that we were doing together. So listing assumptions is ordinary. Asking smart questions to validate assumptions is extraordinary. In fact, in our workshops, when we do project management workshops and even when we do the leadership workshops, this is the one part that we cover in extensive detail as to what these smart questions are and what is going on exactly in our head that we are making these assumptions, right? So with this, I also want to say ordinary does not mean it's not good. Ordinary does not mean it's not enough. It just means that to go from good to great, there's something small that we need to do to make it some very special to our stakeholders and to ourselves. My second little extra is, in fact, an area of my work that I really, really enjoy, which is to do with stakeholder management. Stakeholder management is ordinary. All project managers, all of us have stakeholders that we work with and we manage. Now, in project context, when we are managing the stakeholder, what are we doing? We start with identifying the stakeholder and then we say, okay, this is the power interest grid, this is where the stakeholder falls, and this is the kind of management I will do, this is the kind of stakeholder engagement matrix I will make. That's what we do in terms of the stakeholder management. But what would make this extraordinary is taking time to build rapport for effective stakeholder engagement. So stakeholder management is different from engagement. The basic difference being, like we said in Gymnastic Enterprise, we are not looking at direction and control. Management, in my personal view, would directly relate to direction and control, versus here we have a more collaborative approach where we are building rapport with the stakeholders to engage with them, to know what they want, right? Personally, I feel every single project is someone's dream, right? And what we are looking at, the number one rule for me when we are looking at stakeholder engagement is stakeholders are people too. What is their perspective in this project, in their interaction with us? What is it that they are looking at from this whole setup? Do I understand what is their context? Do I understand where is it that they are coming from? So what is their context? Where are they coming from? And How is this project helping them? How can I, as project manager or as a team member, align with their purpose, with their goal to make this experience extraordinary for them, to make this project successful for them and for myself? And finally, my third little extra is related to the second little extra. This is to do with communication. Let's say Ted is a project manager and he is in a project which is currently delayed. And he's having a chat with his team and he's talking about what went wrong in this project, why are we delayed. He's also talking about, let me just get you specific questions. He's talking about um, why do we have this problem? He's talking about what does this problem stop me from doing? He's communicating well. In fact, he is going in a direction where he's getting a lot of information about what the problem is. But what also happens when we take this approach, this is in general, the term we use is blame frame. Here we are trying to find the problem. This is what disempowers people. Instead, when we're communicating, what would make it extraordinary is having an outcome focused approach to meet the project needs. What is outcome focused approach? Outcome focused approach is where we are asking questions like, what is it that I do want? When, where, and with whom. So here, all the focus is on finding a solution, finding how I can make it work for me. What are the positive things, if at all, in any way, do I get from this problem? How will I maintain these things in my new outcome? And so on. So we have an alternate approach. So if you see, it's the same thing. It's just a different end of the same stick. Whether I'm looking at what problem it is or I'm looking at solving, what are the different ways of looking at this differently in a more empowered way. In fact, we have a program which is called Communicating for Results, which is mainly focused on this, where we look at what are the different ways in which we can communicate, focusing more on the outcome frame rather than looking at the results, rather than looking at what's not going okay. Right. So those are my three little extras. What you will notice here in this is uh, extraordinary is not difficult. Extraordinary is in fact simple. What is important here is it is not commonplace. How can we make sure that we do that little one small thing that will change the entire game for us, that will give us edge over others to make it make us leaders in project management in this case. So with that, I am done. If there's anything else that you would like to, anybody would like to ask a question or, share a thought. Yes.
Hi, Namita.
Hi.
This is Shivakiran.
Hi, Shiv.
The chalk, the illustration of the marker was really very connecting to the first little extra. Can you provide maybe one or two anecdotes for the other two slides, like second and third, maybe in real time?
Yes.
Like communicating well, some kind of incident, how you or someone else would have done better.
Right. So like the example I gave here, where when I am talking, let's say I'm a project manager and I'm talking to my team, a lot of times our focus is what went wrong. Why does this report not go out in time, or why was this report not done well? Why were all the aspects of the project not taken into consideration for preparation of this report? So what we are basically trying to do when we are looking at uh, just basic communication is we are looking at a state which is more disempowered because we are focusing on the problem. What I am proposing is we focus on the solution. So instead of saying what happened wrong, again, I'm stressing it is not that I don't need that. What I'm saying is the different approach would make it more worthwhile for us and for the team. So if instead of saying that, if I say, okay, what is it that we want? Okay, how can we achieve that, rather than saying what is something that has gone wrong? Yeah. So, okay, Naveen here is saying, what could be the consequence if we do not develop a little extra? Okay, I'll come to that. Shivakiran, to your question, so we are looking at a more human-centric approach to say, and a more positive approach. Because the moment I start asking my team member why you haven't done it, or what wrong happened here, they get into a very defensive mode. Versus when we talk to our team members and say, how can we make this better? Then we are not blaming them. We are just trying to address the problem. Right? So that's the approach I'm talking about here.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, perfect. All right. Naveen, what could be the consequence if we do not develop a little extra mindset? Excellent question, Naveen. In fact, when I was going through the PMI Pulse of Profession report, it's talking about emergence of gymnastic enterprise, and you will see all the characteristics that are making these organizations successful are those small little extras that they're doing. That are making them so. So if we do not develop a little extra mindset, uh, we will stay where we are. So the little extra is, for me, going from good to great. The second thing also here, what would happen is, there's a saying, luxuries of yesterday are necessary of tomorrow. So I would like to relate it here, saying, if I don't do that little extra, my little extra today is the norm tomorrow, right? If that is not done, I'm way behind, and I may not be in line with where the whole industry is moving, right? And that's why it is important. I hope I answered your question.